Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here. Yeah, last week on Vero and on Twitter, Zack Snyder posted this t-shirt he's kind of selling for charity. Now it has all these symbols and it seems to be a kind of version of the Tree of Life. And he's obviously sending us a message, right? So I couldn't really work it all out. I did see a couple of videos. Chris Wong Svensson was doing a video on Ping Pong Flicks, which was very interesting, and he was working it all out. But I'm a bit too stupid. But Screen Rant have done an article, so I'm going to read this article so we can just together see what it all means. This is really exciting. So let's give it a read, right? Ever since Zack Snyder split ways with the DCEU, he's been teasing details of his original plan for Justice League and answering fan questions about the Snyder Cut and Justice League 2. But the whole picture hasn't been completely clear. As a part of a t-shirt campaign to benefit suicide prevention, Snyder revealed a shirt with a cryptic design, revealing the concepts and the plot of his plan for the Justice League in live action. Naturally, there's a lot to break down, and fans are rushing to find meaning in its myriad symbols, ranging from Kabbalias to Freemasonry to tarot to Arthurian legend and more. Many of these concepts can be vague and fluid, and we won't know the right interpretation until Snyder confirms them, which he's already done in a few instances. So instead of diving deep into the definitive meaning of each, we'll look at a variety of themes communicated with each bit of symbolism and how that ties back into what Snyder was doing with the Justice League. And we know that Zack loves the symbolism, and so do we, don't we? That's one of the things we love about the DCEU. Even Aquaman had a lot of symbolism. Kabbalah, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Kabbalah is rooted in a mystical interpretation of the Bible, taking a number of Jewish and Christian principles and infusing them with more esoteric philosophies, many of which are contained in the Kabbalah Tree of Life. The image on Snyder's design is a deviation from the traditional Tree of Life. While the Tree of Life has 10 nodes, Snyder depicts a hexagon with his original Justice League characters at each point and appears to only have 8 nodes, which is very interesting, isn't it? The top of the image is blazoned with the word equitas, which is a Latin term that is often translated as justice, but the true meaning is a little broader. It's the root of the English word equality, and the word is actually the concept of balance and symmetry of fairness. The justice translation is obviously key to the whole image because it represents the Justice League, but balance, fairness and symmetry are key concepts not only in the imagery but in the dynamic Snyder envisioned for the members of the League. The Tree of Life includes 3 pillars representing many sets of 3 things, including justice, mildness or mercy, negative force, balanced force or positive force, and a form of consciousness or force. Every character on the tree slots into a different one of these pillars, and we can explore that more individually when we examine the characters. There are another set of pillars on the image though, the mosaic pillars of Joachim and Boaz, said to have stood to the left and right of the entrance to King Solomon's temple, but there's a long tradition of 2 pillars guarding the entrance to sacred places. The pillars are said to represent a number of different things, and the most basic of which is an equilibrium between 2 opposites. This is often shown as a sun and a moon. And in the context of DC, it's easy to assure that also means Superman and Batman. Of course it does. Obvious, isn't it? Do you know what? I'm glad I found this article because I didn't get anything on that t-shirt. I'm stupid and I'm sorry. The towers themselves also strike opposite tones, from one another, with the left tower bearing more classic Greco-Roman design, with a bundle of wheat at the bottom and an 8-pointed 8-rayed star with an eye in it, an eye as in eye. So with an eye in it. While the one on the right is a modern skyscraper and has a cog with a moon in it. This disparity represents a number of times, I can't read that, I'm sorry, including ancient, modern, mystical, mechanical, day-night, and rural-urban. At a minimum, there are a number of symbols that could represent any of the members of the Justice League, but mostly it follows the theme of opposites for the pillars, since these pillars classically represent a gate. It's no mistake that it's also framed by the words betwixt, between, and onwards, inward. Then, of course, the world is pictured in the middle, with cones appearing to represent each of the pillars keeping watch over the world. This is actually fascinating. You know what? This is awesome. The sword going through the middle has Superman's crest in the place of the pommel. The pommel of a sword traditionally had two purposes. One, it was large and prevented the sword from slipping out of the bearer's hand, and two, it served as a counterweight to the blade to ensure balance. On the crossguard, the sword is inscribed with a set of Greek symbols that appears to translate to "I will come." The meaning of this isn't clear, but there were a couple of possible biblical implications. Right, let's have a look. Matthew 10:34, "Do not think that I came to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Revelation 2:16, "Therefore repent, or else I am coming to you quickly, and I will make war against them with the sword of my mouth." Interesting. This is fascinating. The sword runs through the length of the image and seems to be the focal point, just like we know Superman was supposed to be at the centre of Zack Snyder's 5-part story. The sword is also double-edged, depending on your interpretation of the symbols along the sword. They can be read as both the Nightmare Timeline version of events or the Prime Timeline version of Superman unites the Justice League against Darkseid. Batman sacrifices himself to save Lois, or Superman loses Lois, blames Batman, succumbs to the anti-life equation, destroys the League, and kills Batman. The sword striking the coffin marked W for Wayne seems like a callback to the way Superman kills Batman in the nightmare scene by hitting his chest. On either side of the sword's hilt are sets of characters. AC23 seems to refer to Action Comics 23, wow, which marks the first appearance of Lex Luthor. The same reference was made in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, where Lex Luthor is designated prisoner AC23 1940. How amazing is that? The 3.5 is a little more cryptic and could refer to a number of things. Many people have speculated different passages of scripture, but when compared to the AC23, it seems weird that the scripture would simply be chapter and verse with no book denoted. It could refer to the presumed 3.25 hour runtime of Zack Snyder's original version of Justice League. Interesting. Or it could refer to the fact that Justice League was supposed to be movie number 3 in Snyder's 5-part story. But that's also shaky since Snyder never finished Justice League, or maybe something else entirely. Putting a globe in the middle of the Tree of Life is certainly interesting, it is. In Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, Kal-El calls Lois "my world." So that's the most obvious assumption. It also resembles the Daily Planet logo, where both Clark and Lois are reporters. The intriguing thing about the Tree of Life structure, however, is that the centre of the tree, where the globe is here, represents death. As we know in the Nightmare Timeline, Lois is dead, and that is what ultimately allows Superman to be controlled by the anti-life equation. Around the Earth is a ribbon bearing a letter A. It's been speculated that this represents Scarlet Letter and Snyder seemingly confirmed what that means isn't entirely clear yet. Although if the world represents Lois, it would suggest she wasn't faithful or betrayed Clark in some way. Wow. And that doesn't feel like what Snyder is trying to convey. The other possibility is that it's around the actual world, because the world betrayed Superman, or Superman sees Lois's death as a betrayal. There's still a lot to unpack here. Located below the Earth on the sword is an object possibly packed more full of symbolism than any other spot on the design. It's a round object with the Omega symbol on top, 6 swords plus the big sword sticking out of it, and it says Court Land on the side. Round table. The object is a circle, and it could represent the round table Zack Snyder drew from a lot of Arthurian legend for Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, particularly from the movie Excalibur, and the round table is clear allusion to the Justice League. The sword. Altogether there are 7 swords. This will immediately call to mind Zack Snyder's first image of Jason Momoa as Aquaman, captioned Unite the Seven. Initially it was assumed that meant 7 members of the Justice League. More recently it's been assumed to be a reference to the 7 seas in Aquaman, but maybe it's actually both. Wow. Snyder drew heavily from 7 Samurai for his inspiration on Justice League, so 7 Swords is also a reference to that. But he's also hinted as a reference to the 7 Swords of Tarot card. Upright, the card represents betrayal or deception. Upside down, it represents self-doubt, depending on context or orientation. And other nearby cards, the 7 of Swords, may be a call to get by with cunning and trickery, a call to go solo and face your problem alone, or a call to unburden your conscience and come clean about the deception, receive forgiveness and restore unity. Omega symbol. The Omega symbol is a clear reference to Darkseid, who was cut from Justice League, which was outrageous, by the way. What's not clear is why the Omega symbol is over the round table. The best explanation comes from a deleted storyboard revealed by Screen Rant last year of Justice League's nightmare scenes. In the scene, the Omega symbol from Gotham Harbour is shown as we overlook the rubble of the Hall of Justice. Thanks to the end of Justice League, we know the Hall of Justice is in the old Wayne Manor, where Bruce says he'll add a big round table. Oh yes! Courtland, the most curious part about the round table with the 7 swords and the Omega symbol, though, is the fact that it says Courtland across Courtland is a reference to the Ayn Rand's book, The Fountainhead, which Zack Snyder was adapting to script at one point. Does that mean he's not doing it anymore? The story is one of the creative freedom featuring an architect named Howard Rourke, whose vision for the building is ruined by corporate interest in the story Courtland. Actually spelled Courtland is the name of housing project taken on by Rourke. The parallels to what Snyder experienced behind the scenes with Justice League are clear, but what's the parallel within his DCEU story? One idea is that the Justice League is Superman's Courtland, and like Rourke in The Fountainhead, he destroys it when he thinks his vision for it is ruined in the Nightmare continuity, naturally. Superman. At the top of the tree is Superman. His symbol is inside of a circle, which is a symbol representing perfection. He also represents a sun at the top, echoing Jor-El's Man of Steel prophecy that one day they would join him in the sun. The symbol even resembles an image from Man of Steel in the history lesson on the Kryptonian ship, where the crest of the House of El is depicted on a sun located at the top of the Tree of Life. Superman is in the spot of Kepha, aka the crown, which particularly signifies he exists half in the human system and half in the divine. Wow, this is unbelievable. I mean, Snyder's just so smart though, isn't he? Aquaman. Next is Aquaman, including the trident and the 7-pointed crown. Aquaman's symbol exists inside of the hexagon. At the top of the rightmost pillar of the tree, the road of Chukmar is a place of wisdom, but at the rightmost pillar is also the male pillar, the embodiment of primal male energy. Each of the nodes on the tree of life can also be associated with a planet, and a Kimoka is fittingly Neptune, which gets its name from the Roman god of the sea. Wonder Woman, also depicted with a hexagon at the top of the leftmost feminine pillar, is Wonder Woman. She's associated with the image of an eagle carrying a sword. Zeus, her father, is often associated with an eagle, and it's incorporated to her costume. So it's fitting her node is Bina, which is characterized by understanding. Here's Cyborg. Cyborg is depicted with a pentagon as a human meta and not a hexagon like the ancient being, like Wonder Woman or Aquaman. Since the Tree of Life is missing a row, it's not clear what node Cyborg is supposed to be associated with. Chest, which is related to Mercy, on the zack representing the victory between Cyborg and Aquaman, is a chain with a broken link. One possible meaning of this, and exists outside of their own people, Aquaman is half-breed. That is a half-breed. Doesn't belong to Atlantis or man. Cyborg, half man, half machine. Cyborg is also has a book with what appears to be mother boxes and a flame above it. With Cyborg's access to the universe knowledge, the book and a mother boxes certainly make sense, but there may be more meaning here, especially with the flame. The Flash. The Flash's symbol is also in a pentagon and takes the place of either Gabrua, which is power, strength, and courage, or Hod, which is intellectual and emotional energy. The Flash and Wonder Woman have a DNA strand connecting them. Wow! But Flash also has an hourglass and a cycle with the scythe with wings, likely representing father time. As we know from Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, Flash was attempting to travel back in time to warn Batman to prevent a tragedy. Batman. At the bottom of the tree in a diagonal square shape, Batman represents the Yesod, which is the foundation and represents dream, as he's both the one that forms the Justice League and the one that was experiencing dreams and saw the nightmare future. This is only fitting above Batman in his coffin, which appears to be trickling blood, and below it are sperm swimming away to the next node. Wow. The baby. The intemperate fan guessed that the baby represents Lois and Clark's baby named Bruce. Yes, and Snyder liked this. After Batman sacrifices himself to save Lois, and Snyder seemingly confirmed that this is correct, meaning Lois and Clark were likely meant to have a baby before this whole story was over. The baby is depicted in an inverted triangle sitting in the place of Malukt, which is the combination of all other properties. It's also the gate into the Tree of Life. As Jor-El prophesied, Cal would become a bridge between two peoples. Baby Bruce Kent would be the manifestation of that bridge. Wow. Ah, what a shame. What a shame. We don't get to see that. That's a lot of dense, vague, historic, and complicated symbolism. That's why I didn't bother doing a video, because I didn't know where to start. This is why this article is fantastic. That's why I decided to do this video. Complicated symbolism, so the actual detail of the story depicted here might not be clear, but the spirit certainly shines through. It's an image of balance between life and death, depicting a story that is both circular and linear, and can be read both forward and backward on the back of the t-shirt. It is printed on is a spoiler for what the whole thing is about, summed up in a Joseph Campbell quote: "All the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you." Above, all this shows how this whole story truly did revolve around Superman. While each character has a part to play, the through line is his, and he's situated at the top, shining down upon the others. During Man of Steel promotion, when asked about the prospect of a Justice League movie, Snyder expressed the importance of Superman being at the centre. Read this beautiful quote. As a Superman fan, I want Superman front and centre of everything. Right, I've said that Justice League is a top-down affair in my opinion. There's two things you've got to do. One, you have to get Superman's house in order. And two, you have to look at the rest of the DC universe. Just like you, top-down Superman, you have to sort of top down the rest of the DC characters. Not to say that they need their own movies or anything, per se, like say the Marvel model. But by the way, I'm also not ruling that out. But I do think there's an opportunity to think about how you might introduce other DC characters. And whether that's a Justice League movie or whether that's just a way of expanding Superman's universe. Those are things that I think that's the next conversation, I think, for me. Just makes me sad. Just makes me sad that Zack's not involved anymore. That's all that does. Starting with Superman at the top and having other characters come into flesh out the story around him, as shown with each of the other characters at the points of a hexagon as opposed to the traditional MCU formula, would certainly been interesting to see play out, especially with Lois and Clark having baby named Bruce. It would have presented something new that DC canon hadn't seen before in a unique twist on not just Bruce and Clark, but the way all the Justice League characters are interrelated as they're shown on the various points of the Tree of Life. Fans have only just begun discovering what this new puzzle means, but it's already provided a wealth of new information about Snyder's original plans. They may not all translate to moments on the big screen like they were originally intended, but with Snyder's story left in an unfinished state after Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, it's nice to get closer to a sense of closure for both him and his fans. Well, that was brilliant, wasn't it? I really enjoyed reading that to you guys. And it just shows how intelligent Zack Snyder is. Does this mean that he's going to get a chance to finish this off? Is there a chance we'll see the Snyder Cut? We'll see his Superman talking about there, you know, how Superman must be front and centre is really exciting to me. So let me know down in the comments, guys and girls and everyone, what do you think of that? Have you already worked out the t-shirt? Because as I say, it was a head fuck to me, and this article was absolutely beautiful. Thanks for watching. Back soon.